Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 9th of December. You're tuned into our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Thanks ever so much for tuning in on this brisk winter's day here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. In a move that could have big implications for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, the International Olympic Committee approves an action plan that will allow future games to hold events outside the host country or city. President Park Geun-hye once again stresses reunification would bring a bonanza to both Koreas, but calls on North Korea to take the first step by laying down its nuclear arms. Plus, authorities in the Indian capital Delhi ban taxi booking service Uber after allegations one of its drivers raped a female passenger. Our top story this morning. In one of the most significant shake-ups in its history, the International Olympic Committee has approved a measure to allow some events to be held in other cities or even other countries. The move is part of a package of reforms dubbed the Olympic Agenda 2020. Meeting in Monaco on Monday, the IOC said the new measures would help slash the cost of bidding and encourage more countries to make bids to hold either the Winter or Summer Games. The decision could impact Korea and more specifically the 2018 Winter Olympics that will be held in Pyeongchang. The Korean alpine town will be offered the option of moving potentially expensive events like bobsleigh, luge and skeleton to another country. The IOC will also scrap its cap of 28 sports in the Games. This means popular sports like baseball, softball and squash could make a comeback in time for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And staying with the IOC's plans and their potential implications for Pyeongchang 2018, and there's speculation swirling the Korean town could look to share some of its events with other countries to keep costs down. But President Park Geun-hye has come out and said that that would be an unacceptable option. Meanwhile, the Pyeongchang Organizing Committee says it will resist any move to pressure it to hold any events outside of the country. The governor of Gangwon-do province, where Pyeongchang is located, says it would be impossible to change event venues now anyway, as construction on 6 new stadiums has already begun. Jong Chang-ho has been elected to serve as a judge at the International Criminal Court. The 48-year-old South Korean was voted in on Monday local time at UN headquarters in New York. Mr. Jong will serve as one of the ICC's 18 judges, and he will have a 9-year term. He was elected with 2/3 of the vote over 16 other candidates. The intergovernmental organization conducts elections every 3 years to elect 6 judges. Mr. Jong, who holds a Bachelor of Law and a Master of Law from Seoul National University, was a judge of the extraordinary chambers of the courts of Cambodia after serving as a judge in South Korea. President Park Geun-hye has once again been hailing the potential benefits of a unified Korea, saying it would be a bonanza, not only for the Korean Peninsula, but for the entire world. Our Choi Sun has more.
In an era where countries are mutually dependent and intertwined like a spider web, President Park Geun-hye says North Korea's nuclear development is a grave threat to peace not only on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia, but to the entire world. At the annual World Policy Conference in Seoul Monday, the South Korean president referred to a trust politic plan which seeks to build trust, expand non-political exchanges and economic cooperation with the North, then in Northeast Asia and beyond across Eurasia. President Park, however, said Pyongyang should also take the initiative for laying down its nuclear arms so that the international community can help with its economic development. As for Korea's complex relationship with China and Japan over historical and territorial differences, the Korean leader said that 3 countries can do so much more together in areas such as nuclear safety and tackling climate change, similar to a multilateral process in Europe. And then came our vision to connect Asia and Europe by constructing energy and logistics infrastructure to spur regional growth and restore stability. President Park also shared her belief that a reunification of the 2 Koreas would be a bonanza for all of humanity.
특히 한반도의 평화 통일은 평화와 번영의 새로운 동북아 시대를 열고 유라시아를 넘어 세계 평화와 안보를 위한 글로벌 거버넌스 강화에 중요한 기여를 할 것입니다.
The three-day forum will also address global issues, including the crisis in Ukraine and the threat of Islamic State militants in the Middle East. 최유선, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea's unification minister, Ryu Kil-jae, has begun a week-long trip to the United States that will see him visit Washington and Los Angeles. He's in the US capital as we speak. For more on how his agenda will go, it's basically focused on policies and issues related to North Korea. Here's our Hwang Sang-hee.
In Washington, South Korean Unification Minister Ryu Kil-jae will meet with senior officials, including Under-Secretary of State for Political Affairs Wendy Sherman and lawmakers vocal on North Korea issues such as Ed Royce and Marco Rubio. His trip marks the first visit to the U.S. by a South Korean unification minister since 2011 and comes as Seoul seeks out new momentum in inter-Korean relations. A senior South Korean official told reporters that the government must actively consider incentives for North Korea to resolve the issue of war-separated families who are now in their 80s and 90s. Stressing its utmost importance, the official said it would be an international shame if the government failed to resolve the matter. Although he did not elaborate on what the incentives could be, it's widely speculated South Korea is considering the lifting of economic sanctions imposed on the North in 2010. The sanctions came after North Korea torpedoed a South Korean warship, killing 46 soldiers. The official stressed Pyongyang must apologize for the attack for the sanctions to be lifted, but added all issues will be open for discussion if the two Koreas meet for talk. Pundits say the South Korean government should seek a package deal that includes an apology from the North for the 2010 attack, the lifting of sanctions, and the issue of war-separated families for a much-needed breakthrough in inter-Korean relations. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Yes, and while we're on North Korea, international aid to that country amounted to a mere $30 million last year. That's just 1/10 of what it was 10 years ago. A report released by the Korea Development Institute on this Tuesday cited worsened global awareness following the North's nuclear tests and a drop in aid by key donor countries, namely South Korea, the United States and Japan. The North received the most international aid back in 2002 at around $360 million. It received the lowest, $24 million in 2010. After its second nuclear test the year before. The report said international aid to the North is declining not only in volume, but also in the number of donor countries. As for the reason, the report blamed North Korea's lack of transparency about its food distribution system and the nutritional status of its people. Washington's Special Representative for North Korea policy is calling for South Korea and Japan to make efforts to improve their strained ties. Japan's Kyoto news agency reports Sung Kim, who you can see there, made the remarks in Tokyo on Monday. He said a constructive relationship between the two Asian countries would benefit all three countries. Kim said he was aware of the obstacles that stand in the way of better ties, such as Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women, but expressed hope Seoul and Tokyo could resolve their issues. Regarding North Korea's nuclear and human rights issues, Kim told his Japanese counterpart, Junichi Ihara, that the US and Japan should coordinate their policies when dealing with Pyongyang. The two sides will discuss the guidelines of their bilateral defense cooperation agreement on this Tuesday. Sung Kim will then head to China once he wraps up his time in Japan. Well, it's time for the global news now, and the ride-sharing mobile app called Uber has been banned from India's capital of New Delhi after one of its drivers was arrested on charges of rape. For more on this developing story, let's connect to Eunice Kim at the News Centre. So, Eunice, This is a huge setback for this company based in San Francisco. It really did have its eyes on expanding its international operations.
You're right, Mark. Uber just last week had said it raised another $1 billion to grow its global reach. And with India being Uber's largest market outside of the U.S., this is a development that could very well dent the company's ambitions. Now, protests appear to be growing as well against the private car service as the 32-year-old driver appeared in court on Monday. And if the allegations are true, it is a user's worst nightmare realized. Police say a 26-year-old female passenger said her driver took her to a secluded place and sexually assaulted her late Friday night. They also said the 32-year-old driver had been acquitted 3 years ago after being arrested for another rape allegation. New Delhi's transport commissioner said he was blacklisting Uber for licensing the driver without a background check. Uber's CEO in an online post promised to do everything to help bring this perpetrator to justice and to support the victim in her recovery.
Yeah, we must remember the victim in all of this, but it is terrible publicity for Uber. And this is not the only blow for the company on the global stage. A court in the Netherlands says the company cannot work with drivers who do not have a taxi license.
Right, that ruling came down yesterday, and it comes down to those who use Uber Pop, which is the smartphone application used to arrange for those rides there. Most drivers, of course, do not have a taxi license, and those who ignore this ruling could face a maximum fine of up to 40,000 euros. Mark, that's about 49,000 US dollars, though the preliminary ruling did leave room for drivers who do not charge fares.
Yeah, that's a huge fine, probably well over a year's salary for those drivers.
Right.
And this does seem to be a problem the company is running to all over the world, because we had some controversy here in Seoul only recently over a similar issue. Now, turning to our next story then, and there has been an urgent call for help from the United Nations. It says it needs more than 16 billion US dollars to fund its humanitarian efforts in this coming calendar year of 2015.
Yeah, it's a record amount. UN's Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs cited what she called an unprecedented scope of need that was outpacing the organization's capacity to respond.
In the plans that we are launching today, a combined 78 million people are considered in need of humanitarian assistance, and we aim to respond to the urgent needs of 57 million of them.
Those 57 million people urgently in need come from the UN's top priority crisis regions of Central African Republic, South Sudan, Iraq, and Syria. And nearly half of the $16 billion ask, more than $7 billion of it, would be earmarked to go to refugees displaced by the Syrian conflict. Now, just last week, in fact, the UN agency World Food Program had warned it would have to cut food rations to people displaced by the Syrian conflict due to lack of funding.
Yeah, shocking still to see people in tents and without any shoes, as the weather is going to get a lot colder over there in Syria. And let's hope that the world does put their hands in their pockets to help raise this 16 billion US dollars. Thank you ever so much, Eunice, and we will, of course, see you back again at noon.
See you then.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 50. Now, Japan's recession woes deepened on Monday, with revised GDP figures showing the Japanese economy actually contracted almost 2% in the third quarter, and that's even weaker than the 1.6% drop reported in preliminary data a couple of weeks ago. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Expectations of economic growth in Japan have been thwarted, with the government announcing worse than expected third quarter figures on Monday. Japan's economy contracted nearly 2% in the 3 months leading up to the end of September from a year earlier. That is well above an initial forecast of 1.6%. The recession largely stems from a drop in business spending that plunged 0.4% from the second quarter. Earlier forecasts pointed to a 0.2% dip. Despite the drop, the Nikkei recovered the 18,000 mark for the first time in more than 7 years.
This weak data just simply suggests that Japan is not out of the woods yet. We've already seen more reaction on the monetary side. We know that the elections are coming up, and therefore that it most likely is that Mr. Abe will continue his existing have a new term in terms of setting policy in Japan. And I think the prospects of that, which seems to be quite likely, is what keeps the Japanese market drifting higher.
In the second quarter, the world's third largest economy shrank more than 7% from the previous year, the biggest slump since March 2011. The contraction has set off alarm bells and prompted Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to call a snap election in hopes of postponing another tax increase to 10%, which is scheduled for next year. The revised down third quarter figures come just days before the national elections. On top of the data showing that Japan slipped into recession for 2 straight quarters, slumping oil prices are raising expectations for a cut in inflation forecasts by the Bank of Japan next month. Hwang Ji, Arirang News.
Now, smart wearable devices are taking off pretty fast here in Korea. SK Telecom's T Outdoor service, which is tailored towards wearable devices, has seen its number of subscribers surpass 25,000, and that's only since its launch in early November. SK officials say that figure is exceptional compared to the rate of subscribers even to its cell phone plans. Another data plan by KT called Ole Wearable is also drawing a lot of local interest. Within a month of going live, the service added more than 10,000 subscribers. LGU Plus, another big company here in Korea, says it's planning to launch its own wearable device plan very soon. And the mobile advertising industry in Korea is booming as well right now, with marketing strategies becoming more sophisticated, both in terms of tactics and targeting. Most experts say the online ad market is evolving from your old desktops and laptops to smartphones and tablet PCs. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The internet prompted advertisers to reallocate big chunks of their budgets from television to online media. Now, they have shifted their focus to the mobile phone advertising market. It's a market that has grown significantly here since the advent of the smartphone. And experts believe it's only a matter of time before the trend set by Korea will be followed by other nations. According to a new report by U.S. market research, eMarketer, the amount of money spent on mobile advertisements made up more than 38% of all online ads taken out by Korean businesses this year. That's up 18 percentage points from 2013, and well above the international mean of 26% for this year. But there's plenty of room for growth. The report predicts that mobile advertisements will surpass online advertisements by the end of next year, and will make up more than 73% of the total online market by 2018. When the international average will approach 60%. Expect a similar boom in the mobile payment transaction market. In the first quarter of 2013, the market stood at a little over $1 billion in Korea. Just months later, by the end of the third quarter, the number has soared more than threefold to roughly $3.5 billion. With smartphones now in the pockets of so many people, expect advertisers and businesses to continue tapping into them, with hopes of reaching as many potential customers as possible. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, technology has changed the way we live by making our lives much more convenient, and that's true for people with disabilities as well, perhaps even more so, because they're able to use advancements in technology to do things they would have never even thought possible just a few years ago. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Technology continues to find new ways to enrich our lives. This tablet PC can translate sign language. A 3D sensor detects the sign language and interprets it into text or sound.
Hello, my name is Ryan. What's your name?
When words are spoken, they are shown as text on the screen. The tablet created by technicians with hearing impairments expands the scope of communication between the disabled and non-disabled. This device aids people with visual impairments. A camera on the side of the glass reads text on the products. When you place your finger on the text, the speaker plays it out loud. It can also inform the wearer of the color of traffic lights and the value of cash they are holding.
$50.
Thank you very much.
The technology enables users to ride the bus alone and read menus, making their lives more convenient than ever. Devices that help patients who are paralyzed from the waist down walk have also become more sophisticated. Made using fiber, this robot outfit allows the walking to look more natural. It can also detect obstacles that may be in the way.
Wearable robot to really help with walking. It's really critical or to provide the right level of assistance at the right time for the wearer.
These are technological developments that no doubt inspire hope in millions of disabled people worldwide. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with an award ceremony which took place on Monday afternoon with the Ilgu Baseball Awards. Now, with the award winners chosen by the former coaches and managers of the KBO, the top prize didn't go to a professional player nor team, but the Korean Little League World Series team. Now, with the Korean Little League World Series team winning their first title in 29 years, the team was awarded with the top prize in the annual award ceremony. The team's head coach Park Geun-hye expressed his gratitude and stated that they'll go after their second straight title next year. Meanwhile, the top hitter and pitcher awards went to Nexen Heroes sluggers Seok Chang and Kia Tigers ace Yang Yeon-jong. And now shifting over to the 2014 World Cup Taekwondo Team Championship, which took place in Mexico. Now for Team Korea was the women's team that took the top podium spot after an impressive victory in the final. After facing off against the African powerhouse in Cote d'Ivoire, the South Korean women's team took a slim 8-7 lead after the first round before breaking it wide open in the second and third round of the competition, beating Cote d'Ivoire 47-25 for the gold medal. Meanwhile, for the men's team, they settled with a bronze medal after losing to Russia 51-38 in the semifinals of the men's competition. And now moving over to football, where the former Korean national football team head coach Hong Myung-bo returned to the country with this charity football match media day taking place on Monday afternoon. Now with this annual Share the Dream football match charity event set to take place on December 13th, the former national team head coach along with other former national team players held a media day to talk about the upcoming charity match and answer questions from the media. There, the 45-year-old stated that because of his failure at the 2014 Brazil World Cup, it was a tough decision to host a charity match this year, but added that such event is important. And when it came down to questions about his future, he stated nothing is set for sure and wanted to focus on the upcoming charity event for now. And now finishing things off and staying in football, it's no secret that Korean international Son Heung-min is the biggest name in Korean football at the moment and that he's having a great season so far with Bayer Leverkusen. And with the January transfer window coming up, talks of transfers are going around everywhere. And one of the teams that's rumored to be highly interested in signing Son Heung-min are the Tottenham Hotspurs of the English Premier League, as they're rumored to have £20 million or over $31 million ready in case his club is interested in selling him. But according to the Daily Star, there are other EPL teams interested in Son Heung-min, including Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, it's another cold morning we are having today. Many parts in the nation started off with sub-zero temperatures this morning, and dry weather watch remains in the east, and dry weather advisor has been issued here in the capital. So be sure to stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water and be cautious when handling fire. Though plenty of sunshine is in store across much of the country, which will boost up the temperatures to what it was like yesterday, getting up to positive side, as the daily high here in the capital will hike up to 4, while Daegu and Gwangju peak at 8 and 7, and Busan should top out at 10 under lots of sunshine. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will be getting up to 10, while Daejeon and Dokdo sees highs of 5 later in the day. That's all for now. Let's send it back to Mark in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jiyeon. And that wraps up this newscast. There's plenty more online and on our smartphone app. Do enjoy the rest of your day or night wherever you're watching us, and stay tuned to Arirang. We'll have more news for you at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.